Welcome back to Ryan Rambles. I can say that now as we are doing the third episode of this. And I know it's confusing if you, like me, are like, what show is this? Which one is the... Because there's... How many? This is the podcast one, where I just go. So if you want to know about things in greater detail, this is that one. So it might not show up on YouTube. Although, I have noticed there is an actual podcast tab on YouTube, so maybe I should be taking advantage of that for episodes such as these where I don't feel so compelled to make a video version. And if you want to know about that song, that was 7 Seconds, if everything went right. And it's from, they recorded it a couple times. I believe that particular take is from alt.music.hardcore. It was an EP they had not too long ago. Before I started listening to them, 7 Seconds was a band that we, my friend group, came into with Old School, I'm guessing, which was already a compilation of stuff they had done in the 80s, quite possibly. I always forget how old that band is. The last time I saw them was in LA with the Bouncing Souls this year, I think. But the Kevin Seconds, so-called, on stage referenced his age as being over 60 at some point, and I was fairly surprised, I guess you could say. But yeah, they've been around, I believe, since at least 1980. But I remember when I first heard 7 Seconds, it was like everything that I usually thumbed my nose at, music snob Ryan from high school, just this song's not fast enough, it's too popular, or whatever it was. 7 Seconds was like, oh, somebody got it all right. Every song is fast. Every song does last more than 7 seconds. I get it. That's the joke, but not by much. And it just was the perfect band. I remember being obsessed with that record for the longest time. So it was a cassette too, by the way. But they were also involved with the straight edge movement. They were just always super positive at all their shows and their music too, if you listen to it, obviously. So very easy band for me to love. And I will talk a little bit more about why I chose that song in particular later. But this episode has been percolating a little bit because I was kind of in the thick of a new project for the channel, by the way. I haven't got a lot of client work to speak of. So everything I'll mention will be about the channel here on out. In fact, again, I'm not going to do much to alleviate the difficulty of trying to remember all of the shows that I'm currently trying to produce. So it's more of a network than a channel, isn't it, really, at this point? But the reason I wanted to do this episode in particular is because I was just poring over video and trying to figure out, I'll do a little bit of build up here before I get to the actual announcement, even though you might have figured it out by the title. I was poring over all of this old footage of mine, at first I tried to recapture it, but all of my VHS tapes are dead pertaining to this particular video. So PSA, get your VHS tapes captured. So I had to go back and find what I had luckily set aside already and see about improving that as best I could. So I've been looking at deinterlacing. I bought an AI video program called Topaz Video AI is what it is, and it's fantastic. I'm a few versions behind, so it might be even better at this point, but it kind of specializes in deinterlacing as well, even though I went with another route. I was using Handbrake, which has been a stalwart in the video realm for a very long time, and it's free, so there's another plug for you. But I was using this video AI program to try and upgrade the footage to something more visible, and they have all sorts of different algorithms. So I'm doing every single permutation of different steps, because there's also several steps. I'm deinterlacing, but I'm also up-resing, and I'm doubling the frame rate. So I was just doing all sorts of tests, comparing them, and I'll drop a picture into the probably thumbnail for this episode. You can see a little bit about what I was doing, but that's like the least of it. And I did that for days. So my head just swimming. I'm like, I gotta stop, number one, but also I would like to talk about all this. So that's where I was at. I've since made all of those decisions because honestly, I couldn't stop. I couldn't even stop to do this podcast. It was just always in my head. So I've made those decisions, and I'm quite possibly halfway through doing this video now that I'm talking about. So I went from wanting to stop, having to stop to talk about it, to kind of having to force myself to stop to talk about it. So a little bit of podcast therapy here going on, and not for you, for me. So stay tuned. But I see it all as a good thing, because one of the reasons I created this particular series where it's all just podcasts and that is because I need avenues. So when I do have something, I can feel like I can just drop it as quickly as possible in a way. So I've found that having the different shows kind of where I can plug stuff in is more helpful to me to get these out more quickly. And even though that hasn't been working lately because I've been so bogged down in all that footage and now editing this thing that you might not have seen too much that's been forward facing, but that's basically what this is. This is the beginning of turning everything out towards you guys. So that's where I've been. So let me tell you about where I'm going with all of this. And I hinted at it a little bit on the Patreon. There was a post that I put up, which I'm one post behind. I know I'm going to put something up that has to do with the latest episode of Cinematic that I did. So that'll be up soon. But at least one or two ago, I hinted at this idea that I had that I actually did come up with I want to say I came up with it while I was sleeping. It was one of those things where I woke up and was like, oh, this would be a great idea. But technically in 2021, I think it was, I did a quick little Instagram post. This is, I think, pre-Ryan Runs, or I didn't, again, have all the avenues. So I didn't know where to put it. So it's up on my personal Instagram. But it was this little clip I did from some old skateboarding footage. And then I went back to the same spot and did the same trick, and then kind of made a 2-up display where I was doing the trick at the same time across whatever 20, 25 years that it was. So at the time thought, yeah, it was great fun, and wouldn't it be fun to do this for the video that I made that footage was from, which I guess I can tell you about now. But the first video I ever made was a skate video of myself and all of my high school friends that I had put together and showed to hardly any of them. I think at this point, probably the core crew there got an eyeball on it or two over time. Brandon certainly did, and I'm going to mention some names here, but it's probably about time you got to know them if you are not them at this point right now listening to this. So Brandon, Paul, maybe Jimmy saw it, but I don't know, because I don't even remember if at this point I had decided that I was going into film. It was in college. I remember editing the video probably in the film studies building. So maybe, yeah, I did know at this point. And I was using Final Cut Express, so it's not like I dropped any money. In fact, was that a free program? I can't remember at this point. It operated like it was. And that's kind of always been part of the issue with that video, is I've always wanted to go back and redo it for some very specific reasons. Up-resing the footage and using AI was never on the table, so it's been great to do that. But there was always an issue with the audio. Final Cut Express hated MP3s for whatever reason, so there's like a constant beeping with all of the songs. And the song, kind of the opening song that is for my part in that video, is the song I opened this podcast with, so that's why I used it. But just all sorts of stuff that I would love to erase from history. In fact, if you're trying to go and find wherever that original video is at this point, I believe I've taken it down. I hope I've taken it down everywhere that it was. So if you know where it is and it's somewhere publicly, let me know and I will take it down, because I've been calling it, the original name of the video is Old School. I've been calling it Old School Remastered, but I might do an asterisk there and call it revised as well. So I am correcting a little bit of the mistakes of my past with this. There's a little bit of revisionist history going on. So forgive me and/or don't forget, but that's the new project. But that's not all of the new project. In fact, that's not even the original project. This is kind of the episode 0 of this new series I want to do. And again, I'm halfway through that actual project of remastering that video. So that might be up within the week. I'm loving working on it. So chances are I'm just going to go to town and it'll be up pretty quick. But it take a while. It's 60 minutes long for one. I did not remember. It seems insane at this point. Now, every time I make a video that's over 10 minutes, I'm like, it's a bad idea. Nobody's going to watch it. So 16 minutes of a bunch of quick skateboard clips. So it's taking a little bit longer to rebuild than I thought. And the way I'm doing it is I basically use that AI program to up-res the final product of that video. Because the way AI is, okay, well, let me, in quotes, AI is great, in quotes, in this particular application because it is good at creating information that's not there, which is essentially what I'm doing. At best, I have 480 interlaced footage here. So I'm up-resing that to 1080 progressive, which means that's why I'm doubling the frame rate as well. So it's good at creating that information that isn't there, but it's better at it when there's more information to begin with. That's just how it's always going to be. Well, I guess I don't know. That's how it's always going to be until it becomes self-aware, and then it's probably just not going to do any of it at all. So I went through and I up-res pretty much every version of the footage that I have, and this took a while to do already. And now as I'm piecing it together, I'm comparing the footage on top of each other. So I can be like, okay, this is the best I could do with the raw footage, but here's the actual finished video up-resed, and I'm comparing because sometimes that's the better take on the clip. So again, it's taken a bit, not even just putting it all together, but then comparing it and making sure the best clips possible are in there. So that is episode 0 of this new idea. The new series that will be episodic, and it's going to be trick by trick, is me going around trying to recreate those tricks. And I mean, it's been 20 years since I made the video. So it's been mostly 30 years since I've done these tricks in these places, again, except for that one. So it's not just going to be a straight ahead. It's not going to be like that Instagram video that I posted. So that was a lot of fun and interesting. But what if I broke that out into something that is, my daughter's going to film these since I'll be on camera most of the time. So I've got a little DJI Osmo that I'll actually do an unboxing on maybe next week. So that's coming up because I wanted to use my iPhone, the new iPhone that I got. So she's going to be behind the camera filming me. We're going to drive down. Imagine we'll do these on a Saturday, most likely, although there is one that I think I'll probably have to do at night because I'm not as brave around traffic as I used to be, but we'll get into that episode by episode. Because again, there's also going to be some tricks that are impossible at this point. The architecture has changed. There is buildings that aren't even there anymore. So some of it's going to be a little bit of that as well. It'll be more than just me trying to recreate these. It'll be more, probably be more than 5 or 10 minute videos again at this point. So that's the idea, and I think there's going to be a lot of fun to be had with it. And each episode will be each trick. I'm going to break them out from the original video, and by the end, probably throw them all together to the same music track and see what it looks like. Maybe compare the two. So I don't know. I haven't necessarily got that far down in episode to episode. I'm not really going to know how it's going to go. So I have vague ideas of some of the locations and what they've become. So we'll see. Also, I need to get out and start skating again because I am absolutely out of practice. It is, and this might be the tagline for it, it is like riding a bike. You look worse at it when you're older. So I need to practice regardless, but I'm extremely excited and looking forward to this new series. I need to pace myself because obviously I don't want this to take over any of the unfinished series at this point. I really want to finish Chasers actually first and foremost. I've done some new gameplay episodes just because, again, the way I have things set up, it makes sense that I can just drop those now. So I want to get moving on those as well. Even though gameplay, I don't see itself as necessarily finishing. I removed the season numbers, so it's kind of just gameplay 1, 2, 3 at this point. And it's not called gameplay anymore. I renamed it A Game in the Life and can't change my thinking pattern. But that's it. That's the entire thing. That's the new series. That's the announcement, and I'm calling it Older School. So I'm sure you can see why. And if not, tune in and it'll be apparent, I'm sure, from the very first episode. So I hope you're as excited as I am. I don't know how that would necessarily be possible, but this is also probably the most ambitious project that I think I've thought of so far. It's away from the desk, so there'll be a change of scenery, which was a huge part of it. I just kept thinking every single show I do is just me at my desk talking. So there'll be a little bit of that. It'll be a little bit more varied in where we go, but also I think it'll probably say more than just about anything that I've made so far. So high hopes, and I hope you're there for it. See you then.